YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL draft position rankings today, covering the cornerbacks in what is a pretty unique class because there's a long list of day one impact corners, a long list that could even go in the first round alone. So pretty unique class, interesting class. Not a lot separating these guys in terms of the rankings. So excited to do these. Excited to see your cornerback rankings down in the comments. All kinds of NFL draft content, more to come. Recent mock draft up. Surrounding all the buzz and a lot of trades in there that are very realistic. So check that out. We'll be live April 23rd right here on YouTube covering day one of the NFL draft with predictions when teams are on the clock and instant reactions after the picks are made. That's the best part. Follow and subscribe our other pages, including our second channel, the Goat House Plus, trying to get to 50K on both channels. And that Twitter's a must follow. Always talking football, tons of NFL draft content, polls, and answering any questions there. And we also have a podcast. There's a link down below, description comments for anything you need. Who tops each category for the cornerback class? The best man coverage corner, Jeff Okudah, ran a lot of man at Ohio State. Very sticky in coverage. Zone, I like Jevon Diggs for zone coverage. And the good thing is he's good at man too, but a really good press zone corner. And playmaking ability, even in and outside of his zone. So Trevon Diggs, the best press, whose press technique is actually the best, that is C.J. Henderson, and that's maybe not the press coverage. The coverage part is separate, but I do like the technique in the press of C.J. Henderson. Very strong-handed, and I think that's what teams like a lot. In terms of the coverage, how are they, no matter if they're man in zone, who's the best in their coverage? That is Jeff Okudah here. Best tackler is by far Jaylen Johnson, a sure tackling corner, and there is, even though these corners are good, there's quite a few of them that have their issues fall under the tackling category. So Jaylen Johnson is not one of those guys. Best playmaker, I think, is Trevon Diggs. He's always looking for that ball, knows how to read the quarterback and the receiver, and he can attack the ball at its highest point and make that play as well. Best slot corner, to me, is Kayvon Wallace from Clemson. And that's how you find the people that do and don't watch the tape. A lot of people, list him at safety. He is listed at safety on the roster, technically, and he has played some safety. But if you watch the tape, if you watch him, he played slot corner a lot more than safety. He actually played outside linebacker more than he did safety. So I think he's the best slot corner in the class and can do more, as you can tell. Most upside, it is tough. It's a battle between a couple guys, C.J. Henderson, Trevon Diggs, and Noah Igbinoghene from Auburn. But I'm going to go C.J. Henderson because why he's getting a lot of buzz is because his traits, and the traits tell me he has a lot of upside. So I think teams will be in agreement with me on that. Parnell Motley from Oklahoma is a sleeper no one's talking about. It felt like he was at Oklahoma for so long. Keep hearing his name over the years, being a playmaker and shutting down some pretty big, explosive Big 12 receivers. So he's not getting enough talk. And then a deep sleeper is Kindle Vildor, who's not getting. We saw him at the combine too, very athletic corner, and not getting a lot of talk. But that's definitely a deep sleeper. What I like about him is he's not just going to follow a receiver. He's trying to be a playmaker and keep his eyes on the ball as well. So that's a deep sleeper to look out for, perhaps. Number one corner in the NFL draft is Jeff Okudah from Ohio State, top 10 grade for me. And to sum it up pretty easily here, it's because he's the total package. He has everything. You look at the combination of everything, and man, specifically man coverage for cornerbacks may be the hardest specific thing to do in football. It really might be. Quarterback, hardest position to play. And then, maybe cornerback is next. But specifically, if you're in man coverage a bit, pretty tough job. So him being that good in man coverage because of his everything. Physicality, his press, his coverage, being sticky to the receiver, not getting fooled by double moves, everything, that kind of puts him towards the top. So not too many flaws whatsoever in his game. He breaks on the ball pretty well, always looking for that, including the ball skills. Why pass on him? And it's tough if you're taking a corner, which I know that's not how the draft works, and it shouldn't work for teams. But if you're on the clock and you're taking a corner, it's really hard to pass on Okudah over somebody else. But if you're more confident that you're a pure zone heavy scheme, which there are teams out there, maybe you just rather have a different corner, and I can understand that, I suppose. But and I'm not a big fan of taking a corner super early. So yeah, if you're it's okay to pass on Okudah for some of those top draft prospects this year. But it's gonna be if you're locked in on a corner and you're somewhere around past pick 5, then it's kind of hard to understand why you're not taking Okudah pretty much. My number 2 corner in the class, and I'm very firm on this one, and I seem to be by myself, but it's Jevon Diggs. And I'll say it, everyone's going to say I'm crazy. Jevon Diggs, for me, is closer to being corner 1 than he is 3. He's not corner 1, obviously, for me, but he's closer to being 1 than he is to 3. That gives you an idea of my thoughts on Jevon Diggs. Absolutely love his game, love his tape. The tape checks out, and then I tweet about it a lot. All the numbers, I don't care about the basic numbers. I'm looking into basically how much did this guy get beat. How much of a factor was he in terms of a lockdown corner? And Diggs checks out on all of those. Completion percentage, passes allowed, how much he was targeted, which means feared by the quarterbacks, by the offenses. Diggs is at the top of those lists. And the tape already checked out for me. Very fun tape. Keep in mind, he hasn't been a cornerback for long, kind of known as an athlete in the beginning of his career at Alabama, a returner mainly. And then they realized this guy's a corner. Natural for the limited time of him playing. I think he's one of the more instinctive playmaking. I think he is the most instinctive playmaking cornerback in this class. And, splitting up these corners, which a lot of them are good. There's 9 really that could go in the first. I don't think all 9, but there's 9 names that we wouldn't be shocked to see in the first round of these corners, really. And maybe you think it's 7 or 8. That's fine. What I have to separate them by is what that extra part of the game do they have. They all have ball skills. They all can fly. They're all physical. Those top ones I'm talking about. Do they have anything extra? And I think Diggs has that extra right there. Instinctive playmaker, not just following receivers. He can keep his focus on receivers and the quarterback's eyes and the ball all at the same time. That's what separates the men from the boys in the cornerback position. So he has that. He has the length, athleticism to go along with it. I think he has insane feet. It looks like he never slows down. Corner isn't just about straight speed. That matters, but opening your hips, turning your body, almost doing a full 180 and running at times. Sometimes you got to go crossfield, upfield, and he doesn't look like he loses any speed when he does that. It looks like he's at full speed when he's turning his hips, turning his feet, shifting his feet. So that was super impressive to me. I think he's an absolute perfect press zone corner, and that could play man. He can be press man. He's very good in his press. His flaw kind of is he's over aggressive, and I don't really think that's a flaw. Just coach is going to tone him down a little bit. That's fine. So I think he's going to be an excellent press zone corner, and why I like, and he could be a press man corner too, but why I like the zone a little better is because you see him leaving his zones to go make a play because he's so good at reading quarterbacks. He did it against Joe Burrow. The play didn't count, but that one really stood out, specifically that one among others throughout his career. But, things like that really stand out, but a natural in his limited time, and the upside is through the roof, in my opinion. That for some reason, the media kind of put out there that he's not a good he can't tackle. That's his problem. He can work on the tackling, but it's really not. If you look at the missed tackles compared to how many snaps played, you only get 6 missed tackles. Yeah, perfect world. You wish you would be cut down out of 730 or so snaps, which is an insane amount. He's actually on the good side of his class. He's actually better than a guy like Jeff Okudah on this class. So the media, for some reason, is getting in people's heads who's the better tackling corners and who are not. So they're wrong on that. So confusing during this process. Yeah, the problem is, when he goes and tackles, he'll tackle high. He'll try to punch the ball out, and he'll kind of not really get run over, but because he'll make the tackle. But, he'll kind of give up a couple extra yards, which could be the difference as a game of inches. So that is something I don't like. But it is a struggle finding negatives, in my opinion, for Jevon Diggs. So that is a good thing for him. I really like Jevon Diggs, as you can tell. My number 3 corner is C.J. Henderson, and Henderson is all about the traits. It's all about the upside. It's one of those prospects, and there's a couple of them in every single draft in the first round, maybe more than a couple. You're looking at the guys this year, C.J. Henderson, Clavon Chason, Javon Kinlaw. Those are the guys that are the upside guys. You're going to take them high because of their traits. Some of them because of their traits and their play. C.J. Henderson had solid play, but comparing his play to these other corners and even corners that I'll have behind him, the actual play and the actual numbers, how much they've given up, some of those corners a lot of them are actually better. in terms of their play, but the traits are there, and they're the uncoachable traits. His press, his jam at the line is, it doesn't need to be tuned at all. It's perfect. He's not going to, another thing I wish I put on the graphic, but I can just tell you about it. He's not going to let receivers beat them because they're more physical. And we've seen a lot of receivers that are athletic and bring that physicality to them too. They beat corners because of that. And he's not going to let you do that. So he has some things already in place that aren't really coachable. His break on the ball is great, especially when in coverage. So I would prefer him kind of like Diggs, press zone coverage corner. Ran a lot of man at Florida. I don't really like him chasing corner. When he chases receivers, I should say. That's really not where I'm a fan, even though he has the speed. When he's sitting in his zone, he's really good at reacting to where the ball goes. Really good at it. Really quick. Real good burst. And we see the combination of the athleticism and the strength, but mainly how he doesn't get beat, off of physicality is kind of what stands out. You look at Ja'Marr Chase; he pretty much beat all these corners. Anyone that he played, he beat them. But then there's a couple that kind of had positives, even though they got beat, and that's kind of Diggs and Henderson because they didn't really get bullied around. Ja'Marr Chase was just the better player. They didn't really get bullied around. Some of these other corners really got bullied. He just was bigger, faster, stronger, everything over them. Not Diggs and Henderson. So that's something that could stand out in even the negative games. Why pass him? Yeah, tackling's a pretty big concern. More concern than a lot of these guys at the top here for the cornerback class. A lot of whiffing. There's a lot of moments where he breaks on the ball like so good and you're getting excited, but then he'll put his head down and kind of whiff on the tackle. So that kind of stands out a little bit. And we talked about that. You're kind of looking at the numbers, what he gave up. He gave up a little more in terms of through the air, than you would like, I guess, and compare to the other ones. But he's the upside. He's the traits king. I just hope he goes to the right team. He needs the right coach. So he's 3 because of his traits and his upside. That's why he's 3. Most people have him at 2. Some teams have him at 1 because they're blown away by that. But that's the highest he'll be because of traits and upside. Number 4 is going to be Jaylen Johnson, who have come up a little bit over the last month maybe, the cornerback from Utah. I like the physicality. I like the heart for Jaylen Johnson. Wants to play the game, loves to play the game, and that's kind of what stands out to one of the things that stands out the most. Played through an injury, torn labrum in 2019. He still played at a high level. Pre-snap instincts. I think he can understand formations. He understands route combinations. You can see it when he is a playmaker. When he makes the plays, you can see he's understanding where the ball's going to be. He really understands it. Some guys just do a good job reading the quarterback's eyes, and but I think he's picking up the play. I think you can see he watched the film and he understands what's about to come, what's about to happen pre-snap and as the play's going on as well. So that really stands out to me. Talked about it. He's the best tackler in the class. It's really not even close. Sure tackler. He's not afraid to hit you. Got some strength to him, obviously, and he's great in deep coverage. He gave up the least amount of catches in touchdowns downfield, 10 plus yards downfield here in the class by far. So that is very impressive for sure, because I think what's separating the good corners and the bad corners, according to I guess fans and media mainly, is what determines that is who's just getting torched, who's getting beat, and he's not going to get beat. He was a little fortunate sometimes, some bad QB, the ball placement sometimes. That's what I noticed too. So maybe he didn't play as good a competition as a bunch of these SEC guys. So that is something too that's a little scary, because what would he have done on the SEC team? Why pass on him? Injury in 2019, does the injury scare you at all? That's kind of a question to those teams. I thought the 2018 tape was better than 2019. I was a little lower on him before because I wasn't thrilled with the 2019. Kind of about the next part. A lot of lunging at receivers, and he'll get caught off balance. I think double moves will get him off balance because it'll kind of force him to lunge, and he'll get off balance. So that is concerning, but I saw more of that in 2019. He played through the injury in 2019. Tape 2018 was better. So in a way, you can find some goods from that. But I like him at number 4 here. Number 5 and 6, I am back and forth on like crazy. I'm going Jeff Gladney 5, though, from TCU, first round grade. Borderline, early or late first, early second. High motor athletic corner for sure. Definitely wants to hit people. He wants to come up and pop people. Very solid reading quarterback. So he'll sit in his zone and he'll read the quarterback. He'll make the play. Pretty sticky in coverage as well. And I think he can play in a man scheme, and he can be physical and press. I just think he thrives in the zone. I think his best moments are when he's sitting in the zone, or even sometimes when he has to leave his zone because he knows exactly where the ball is going. He really could adapt and read things. That's really stands out for Jeff Gladney there. So why you could pass on him maybe. Really 1 year. Now, we didn't really hear too much about Jeff Gladney before this year, and he did, even though this really isn't a big negative because he gave up 3 touchdowns, but a lot of these top-tier corners, and why there's so many top-tier corners is because they really didn't give up a whole bunch. You got to start splitting hairs. So a lot of these corners give up 1 touchdown. I think like Okudah and Diggs are at the top, only gave up 1 touchdown, and he gave up 3. So 3 touchdowns, pretty good season still. Just a little. That's the only thing different, I guess. But I like kind of that extra. I talked about what's separating some of the corners when you got to start to separate them when they're real close. He has that extra playability, big playability when reading, quarterbacks when he's sitting in his zone. And then number 6, Kristian Fulton. It's tough leaving a guy like Kristian Fulton out of the top 5. But I think that's the difference between him and Gladney. I think Gladney kind of brings a little more of that extra to his game. And Fulton is, the thing that stands out about him is that he's very sticky in coverage. Like, he's never going to get, like, completely, there's not going to be, burnt. He's not going to get completely burnt, or he's not going to allow a bunch of separation. That's really not a giant positive because you would hope your corners don't, but it does stand out. He really never lets it happen. So that's the good thing. A lot of snaps this year. A lot of, he was targeted a lot because they had Stingley on the other side. So he's kind of a guy that's going to get the job done. What I don't, or what maybe puts, even though I have round 1 on him still, what puts him at 6 compared to the other guys, even though it's really close, is there's not so much of a bonus, I guess. He's not super flashy, kind of just gets the job done, even though he's a very good corner. And then you have, just the, sometimes I feel like another corner you can kind of get off balance. We've seen he was on Henry Ruggs most of the game, but early on in the Bama game he was on Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Jeudy with his movement, he was catching Fulton really off balance. I think he got him really falling down. It looked bad one time. And then Ruggs' his footwork kind of, had him. And the impressive thing, he was able to kind of stay with him though, but early on in the snap, kind of getting off balance a little bit. Another thing is Stingley was mainly on the top receiver on the field, so he was, unlike most of these other guys, he was actually on number 2. He was actually on number 2 more than these other guys, and even actually more than Damon Arnette, who's the next guy. That's not really a negative. It's just something to kind of keep in mind there. But, I think a safe prospect because you're going to get a sticky coverage guy. That's what you're going to get. Balance, and can he bring that extra to his game? Damon Arnette, who's really growing on me too. I like the idea of Damon Arnette. I think he's a really good build. You wish there was more length. I guess the length is kind of what's pushing him down. Not really lacking a lot of length. It's just compared to some of these other top corners, it looks like he's lacking quite a bit. But strong dude, really wants to hit people. He wants to tackle, and he can tackle, but kind of going into that, kind of one of his weaknesses. Him and Fulton are pretty similar. Really no weaknesses, just guys that get the job done, but a weakness is kind of the angles to the tackle, kind of how he deals with the blocks going to make the tackle, kind of goes inside too much. But I do like Arnette. He could be a lockdown corner. Him and Fulton are pretty similar. AJ Terrell's 8, so seeing that good of a corner, AJ Terrell at number 8 shows how good this class is. But AJ Terrell, what I catch him doing, and maybe why he's a little bit behind these guys, even though we're splitting hairs at this point, all good corners, does a lot of, he's too focused on the receiver too much. And some of these guys, 6'7", maybe they're focused on the receiver too much. I want guys that could focus on the quarterback as well, focus on the play, what play is actually developing, But there's something that will actually argue against that. The big-time interception he had in the national championship game in 2018 against Alabama, the 2018 season, that was a highly instinctive play, was able to sit and read the play and then jump that route. I wish I saw more plays like that. But then did play a lot of man for Clemson. So I think another guy that if you put into his zone-heavy scheme, I think he'll thrive. And you look at him versus Jamar Chase, and he got beat pretty bad against Jamar Chase, and you could say everybody got beat pretty bad against Jamar Chase. And that's true. The guy's ridiculous. But a little less... I can take some positives away from some of the other guys. I talked about Diggs and Henderson. They weren't allowing him to beat him with his physicality. He just beat him because he was better. I think Jamar Chase beat AJ Terrell because of everything, really. Because of it. He was because there was times where Terrell was with him, but you see him using his length, using avoiding the pass interference and just kind of just brushing him right off, and that really threw off Terrell a lot. And the missed tackles are an issue as well, kind of just flying up too fast and then he'll miss a tackle. But I think he'll be better in more of a zone scheme, and he can be a playmaker in that scheme because we see the length and the athleticism is there. Noah Igbinoghene, number 9. I was a little higher on him way earlier in the process. Why? Because I love the upside. I see he was a former receiver. I love that background, because the two positions you got to know to play one or the other, So I love that. And then coming in just like that, only playing 2 years, and seems like a natural in terms of his footwork and hips, and I stand by that. He seems like a natural for only being at the position for 2 years, based on his, his movement. It's great. But why he's down at 9? Yeah, a lot of too much focus on the receiver. He's playing the receiver too much. I want to see, that's what separates the big guys from the little guys, the men from the boys, the guys that can do more than just play the receiver, play the whole field, read the quarterback. So I see a lot of that. He ends up receiver chasing because of that, and he has the athleticism to keep up with them, and that kind of causes him to get some penalties as well, a little grabby there. But he's a freak athlete. Pretty impressive for the limited amount of time he's at the position. Number 10 is going to be Cam Dantzler from Mississippi State. Impressive tape. A lockdown corner for the most part. We've seen he was one of the few guys that was able to lock down the LSU offense. You go back and watch the tape. I don't really know the reason for it, but LSU was holding back in that game, and I know that for a fact. It was weird. Jamar Chase, he was on him and he covered him pretty well. He deserves credit for it, but they were just kind of just going for underneath things. Just going to win. Scoring, not as much points as they're used to scoring, but it seemed like the game plan. But what he did that stood out, was he didn't really let Chase get the best of him, physical-wise. He was making sure he was extra physical with him, and he was. So that was impressive. The long speed is a little bit of a concern. He kind of quieted that down a little bit at the pro day, but still, people still think, and I think, based on the tape, 4.5's guy, and the speed does matter, but that's still 4.5's is still fast enough for him. I just think he'll be around 3 guy here. Moving on to the next few corners, some slot corners in here. Kayvon Wallace comes in at number 11, who I'm viewing as a slot corner that can also do more. Because of that, on an actual big board, when you're putting all players together, regardless of position, he actually could be higher than some of the guys that I have, like Cam Dantzler, in front of him. That's because this is just a cornerback grading. As a slot corner, I like him best in the class. But what I really like about Wallace is that he kind of brings that linebacker ability to his game and be able to stay on the field on all downs, unlike some slot corners, some linebackers. So I do like Wallace a lot. As a corner, I'm grading him at number 11, round 3. Bryce Hall, number 12, will be an outside corner. Pretty impressive 2018 season. Missed a bunch this year, 2019. Shown to be a lockdown corner quite a bit. Pretty instinctive, knows how to come up, make a play. The concern about him, he was hurt this year, but mainly the long speed is really a concern. Just downfield, it's really a concern. It kind of shows up on tape at times, but most of the time, he was fortunate that there wasn't really a big play made on him. But even when it's not in his jurisdiction, you seem to have to kind of get downfield and make the play, and he just really can't do it. Even though it's not his fault, you just want to see that extra downfield speed. And he had the injury this year, but you do see the difference with and without him on Virginia. Some of those corners, there was a giant difference, and it kind of just shows how valuable he was to them. 13's Troy Pride Jr., who's an upside guy. He has the freakish athleticism. He has the right body type, measurables, all of it. And pretty solid play, just not as solid play as some of these guys ahead of him, but he has a ton of upside. So give him the right system, he could end up being better than the guys ahead of him. Amik Robertson from LA Tech, slot cornerback, number 14 here. Actually played outside, but under 5'9", he'll play in the slot. So risky, a guy that's played outside, and you're going to put him in the slot, and you're hoping he's going to be good. There's a lot to show that to make us believe that he'll be pretty good in the slot. Feisty corner, wants to come up and hit you. He has those huge moments, but then he has those moments where he'll get beat, because he has those crazy, you're going to jump out of your seat, jaw-dropping plays, get you excited about the game. Love those. Then he has the plays, where he'll get beat, though. But putting him in a slot, I think he'll be a good slot corner. And Darnay Holmes, who can be an outside corner and was an outside corner, I'm not going to rule out he'll play outside. I just like him better in the slot. I think he'll be a pretty good slot. Can be physical with you too. on underneath passes, and that kind of showed the Senior Bowl practices, actually watching him at Senior Bowl practices, one-on-ones, which, very hard. The receiver should win on one-on-ones every single time. It's very hard for corners to win those, and he impressed me in those very much. So that was something that stood out too. So those are the top 15 corners for me. Let me know your guys' rankings. If you want to see my full rankings, all the position groups, more than 15, you can get that early. Those people have it early if you're part of the Patreon or the YouTube membership program for the Goat House. There's links for either one in the description and the comments, and you get a lot extra stuff too, not just in draft season, throughout the year for football. In season is when there's loads of content there. So check that out if you want to. Again, we're going to be live during the NFL draft. Hopefully you can join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got all kinds of NFL draft content on the channel and a lot more to come still. So hopefully you can join us for that. Please like the video and subscribe. And that's going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.